Yeah, it has. I just was listening to Stern on the way in, and Alec Baldwin said how it affected him. He couldn't get over it, and he was still dealing with it.
I think the thing that's you knew Bourdain's background, which was he was a drug addict. He struggled with anxiety, with depression. But I think the thing that this really tells you is that you don't know. You think someone's over that. You think someone's moved on to a different stage of their life, but nobody is ever really over it. That's all I can say about it. I mean, you looked at the guy, it seemed like he had it all. He had a movie star girlfriend, he had a daughter, he had, like you and I said, the best job on the planet. Mm-hmm. And still, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to overcome what he was dealing with. Now, David McMillan is the co-owner of Joe Beef, Le Vin Papillon, Liverpool House, and Mon Lapin. I hope I'm pronouncing all those correctly. And David is an amazing chef and restaurateur from Montreal, and Anthony Bourdain became pretty close with him as he continued to travel back to Montreal, a city that he described as one of his favorites on the planet, which is amazing when you consider Anthony Bourdain literally traveled the entire world. He loved Montreal, loved the food scene there, and loved David and his partner Fred Morin. And recently, on an episode of Parts Unknown, one of the last episodes that ever aired, David and Fred and Anthony went to Newfoundland, and Fred and David toured him around and kind of showed him the interesting culinary scene there. So, David, I believe you're on the line now. First of all, thanks for joining us. Great to have you on. I know you're super busy. Tell us when you first met Anthony, David, and was it an instant bromance right away? Did you guys get along right away?
Yeah. How are you? I'm good. Yeah, we met a long time ago. I think our careers have been intertwined since as much his beginnings as perhaps ours. We met him, I think, when he was hawking the first book on the road, Kitchen Confidential. We had a little dinner for him at Liverpool House. He wanted to meet the local chefs. At that time, the book wasn't really quite mainstream, right? It was really kind of a cult book that was being passed around kitchens. The industry was reading the book. But Tony was still very much like, a guy on a budget staying in cheap hotels doing book tour.
How did the industry react to that book? Because it was a real sensation, right? He was exposing a lot of the secrets of the restaurant industry in a way.
Correct. Absolutely. People didn't know that you shouldn't order fish on certain days. People didn't understand, the rousing in the kitchen, the culture, the long hours, the alcoholism, the drug addiction, the relationship between chef and food writer, the relationship between chef and customer, how bad customers can be and how good customers can be. And it was a real eye-opener, Nobody had written about the inner workings of a modern New York kitchen at that time.
Let's talk about the fact that Jay discussed this right off the top, how the passing of Bourdain, we have never seen the outpouring of emotion online, on TV. I can't remember another celebrity or another person that passed in which so many quotes, so many photos were sent out by these people because they're trying to come to terms with it. Why did he, or how did he have that effect on people?
Tony was a pretty public person. He had the stardom of a Brad Pitt, let's say, the same more, plus he was engaged in social media. He was engaged in all kinds of different causes, but as well walked the streets like you walk the streets, like I walk the streets, ate in restaurants like anybody else, and never said no to anybody who asked for an autograph or a picture. And it was his goal to promote these marginal chef-owned restaurants, butcher-owned butchers, and to kind of expose the best of the industry. Not necessarily the most famous, not necessarily the richest, but the people who were passionate about doing the best work that they could. Stuff was really close to Tony's heart. We're seeing now, of course, on social media that like how many people actually have an autograph, how many people have a picture with him, how many people he actually spoke to, how many conversations he's actually had. It's ridiculous. It's like there's millions of people he's touched. He was very generous to his friends. My career, Fred's career, and we're just talking about Montreal, Martin Picard's career, we've been busy for, 12 years or 15 years due to, the work that he's done in this province with us. And there's a trickle-down effect to all of my friends and peers. Tony Bourdain coming to Montreal was beneficial to tourism in the province and Canada as a whole. We're going to see that now happen in Newfoundland. I don't even think they understand in Newfoundland what's about to happen in St. John. There was a little bit of backlash, I think, because Tony said Newfie, the word Newfie, and some people got upset about that. But I don't think they yet understand. The show aired 2 weeks ago. They're going to see next year an enormous spike in tourism, and then they'll remember and feel sorry for, making a kerfuffle about the word Newfie.
Now, do you have, David, a favorite? You and Fred shot so many shows with him and did so much with him. Do you have a favorite memory, either shooting with him or maybe even just off camera? Do you have a favorite memory of Tony?
Yeah, we had a really special moment at one time. He brought us down to Miami to cook a dinner at the Wolfsonian Museum with Danielle Boulou, Eric Ripert, two very famous French chefs working in New York, Andrew Carmelini, another iconic chef in New York. And he made it really easy on us. It was just like 100 people. We had to cook one course. We were very well financed. We all stayed on his floor at the Raleigh Hotel. And we never understood why, we needed to, spend 14 days in Miami to cook one dinner for, 100 people with 10 other chefs. And the whole thing was, he said, screw it. I booked this for you guys to have 2 weeks off. We literally spent 13 days in the pool at the Raleigh drinking beer and doing nothing with Tony, just sitting by the pool, lamenting over, or should we have the club sandwich or the hamburger for lunch, and what cheeseburger restaurant we were going to eat at for dinner. It was an amazing, generous time, and we became really close on that trip.
Do you think maybe he needed more moments like that? Because you describe his lifestyle, he was like a rock star. Do you think maybe he just wanted to go to dinner and just be another face in the crowd and not have to deal with all that?
Yeah, I felt that, I think he loved the last show we did in Quebec was very good. It was very fun. We relaxed a lot, had a lot of laughs. But this last trip in Newfoundland, we're also close to his ex-wife, Otavia. Over the years, she comes up for any UFC events, and they're big MMA fans and jiu-jitsu fans, and so are we. So we bonded about that. The last time, I think, since the last show we did in Quebec and then this Newfoundland show, we hadn't seen each other for maybe a year. And I know that during that year he divorced from Otavia, and then he was a bit dark, and he was really starting to complain about life on the road and being away from home, 260 days a year. And it was starting to take its toll, and he'd met this new woman, and he fell over head over heels for this girl. And I just felt that when we were in Newfoundland with him, it was dark. It was just he just seemed tired. He seemed like he was smoking way too many cigarettes, for the wrong reasons. It was nervous smoking, and I don't know. I remember talking with Fred, we were just saying we didn't feel that he was in a good place. That said, could we have reacted? Could we have done anything? No, we're from the restaurant industry. We work with a lot of people who aren't in a good place. So having people around us that are not in a good place is kind of the norm. We never thought, ultimately that Tony would go that route. Because, Tony wanted, who didn't want to be Tony Bourdain,
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Tony Bourdain. But the thing is those episodes are fun to watch, but producing those episodes are grueling, and one after the other and year after year, and being away from your family, and just when the normality becomes hotel rooms and being alone with your iPad, you I can see how he might have been depressed, sensitive. And of course, let's not forget that he was somewhat, he struggled with addiction issues early on in his career.
Yep.
I don't feel that he was sober, maybe sober from hard drugs, but he was definitely a drinker. We noticed too that the drinking was, it started early. When we shot Newfoundland, we were drinking at 10 a.m. and we were still drinking at 10 p.m. And, for me and Fred, that's a special thing. We're doing that for the shoot. When we go back to our families and normal life in Montreal, Tony was just going on to another shoot and another lonely hotel room and another hotel bar.
Yeah, you mentioned the hotel rooms because when you're on the road, your choice is sit in your hotel room and watch a movie or read a book. You can't go to the living room and hang out with anyone because the living room is the lobby bar.
I talk to hockey players about that often. We have hockey players come by the restaurant, and I've made relationships with different hockey players over the years, up to till they get traded or they retire. And that sport is all the money in the world doesn't make getting on a plane every day fun. Pack your bag, put your suit on, grab your bag, go to the bus, get the bus, the airport, go play hockey. Go to the gym, go to practice, go back to the hotel room, try to fit your family in. The regular season for an athlete is grueling.
Yeah.
No matter the money, you have to stay in a very strong mental health position. It can catch up with you.
It sure can. David, I want to end on a lighter note. I love your restaurant so much. I think it's the best restaurant in the whole country. And I was lucky enough to bring Dan there one night, my wife and I, and we had such a terrific time. And I wish I could remember the gentleman who served us that night because he took a special shine to Dan that evening. And
yeah, I remember this.
He looked, if I could describe him, David, he looked like a young Will Sasso from Mad TV. He was a big guy, shaved head. And
Patrick Oakes.
Okay, there we go. So Patrick was so kind to us. Dan asked for Bailey's at one point. He was shocked. And then Dan at one point couldn't find it. We loved the meal, but he couldn't find anything he liked on the menu. And I remember
I wanted chocolate. I wanted something chocolate.
Dan craved something chocolate. There wasn't anything chocolate on the dessert menu. So Patrick went out to the dépanneur and got Dan a Mars bar. It was something I'd never seen before in a restaurant. So Patrick,
that's Joe Beef.
That's Joe Beef. I mean, that's such a wonderful atmosphere.
And he served it on a plate. That's great.
Yeah, well, I'll say this in closing. Joe Beef is all restaurants are somewhat, run by pirates. Pirates have an inclusive community. Everybody's welcome on the pirate ship. What we lost in Tony Bourdain is our captain. The captain of the pirate ship is gone.
Well said. My friend, it's so nice of you to take a little time. I know you're busy with all the restaurants and everything else, but hope to talk to you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you kindly for having me on, and be well.
Take care, David.
Thanks, David.